You sit astride your horse in the middle of an endless white wilderness in Montana, where the snow stretches to the horizon and the wind shrieks across the open plains. Back at the ranch house, the thermometer showed -30 this morning. Out here, with the wind tearing through you, it feels closer to -60. There is nothing glamorous about this moment. This is not a movie scene. You are a living body locked in a brutal fight against cold, exhaustion, and the laws of nature. The first truth you learn is that the classic movie image of a cowboy in denim and a hat would get you killed in weather like this. Dress like a screen legend in January of 1886, and you would likely be dead before the hour is over. Real survival starts with the layer closest to your body: wool. Thick, scratchy red flannel long underwear covers you from throat to ankles and becomes your first line of defense. Cotton is dangerous because once it soaks through with sweat, it stops insulating and starts pulling warmth away from your body. Wool does the opposite. Even damp, it still holds heat by trapping warm air against your skin. Over that base layer, you wear multiple shirts, then a heavy wool vest that keeps your core warm without slowing your arms when you need to rope, chop, or work fast. Your legs are wrapped in thick wool pants, but what truly saves you are the woolies: shaggy leggings made from angora goat hair strapped over them. These are not the sleek leather chaps people picture today. They are dense, heavy, and wild-looking, turning your lower half into something closer to a bear. They block the wind, resist moisture, and hold in so much heat that hard work can make your legs feel like they are overheating. Even the cowboy boot has to change when winter takes over. A tight boot cuts circulation, and in this kind of cold, that can cost you your toes in no time. So you buy winter boots, 2 sizes too large, leaving enough room for 2 pairs of thick wool socks without squeezing your feet. If money is short, you pack the extra space in your boots with dry hay or crumpled newspaper to create another shield against the frozen metal of your stirrups. But the crown jewel of winter gear is the buffalo hide coat. Huge, heavy, and nearly 15 pounds, hanging all the way to your ankles. It stops the wind like a wall, and when the collar is turned up, it forms a sheltered pocket of warmth around your face. Wearing it feels like carrying part of a cabin on your shoulders. But when the deadly blue northern storms roll in, that coat may be the only reason you stay alive. Your hands are not protected with regular gloves because separated fingers freeze too fast. Instead, you rely on oversized leather mittens lined with wool or fur. You train yourself to do almost everything while wearing them: hold the reins, work with tools, even strike a match, because exposing bare skin is a gamble. When you need more precision, you may wear a thin pair of silk gloves underneath so your skin never touches freezing steel, buckles, or gunmetal. And that famous cowboy bandana, the wild rag, is far more than decoration. Made of silk, it becomes essential survival gear. Wrapped tightly around your neck, it seals the opening between coat and jaw and keeps the wind from draining heat from one of the most vulnerable places on your body. Silk holds warmth surprisingly well and cuts the wind better than most people would expect. Pulled over your nose and mouth, it softens the bite of the air before it reaches your lungs. At night, you shelter in a line shack, a tiny, rough cabin set between the main ranch and the far edge of the grazing land. Many are dug partially into a hillside, using the earth itself as insulation, with sod and packed dirt covering the roof. Inside, you and your partner crowd into a space barely larger than a modern bathroom. A little cast-iron stove glows red through the night, and the shack fills with the smell of smoke, stale sweat, wet wool, and boiling coffee. It is dirty, cramped, and uncomfortable, but to you it smells like safety. Every crack in the walls gets stuffed with mud, cloth, or anything else you can find to keep the drafts out, and turn that shack into a fragile fortress against the storm. When wood runs low, you burn cow chips, dried manure cakes that burn steadily and hot, assuming you can dig them out from under the snow. Food becomes pure fuel. In weather this severe, your body can burn close to 6,000 calories a day simply trying to stay warm and keep working. Your meals would horrify any modern doctor. Beef, beans, grease, and fat in heavy amounts. But fat is exactly what you crave, because it gives the most energy for the least effort. You soak biscuits in hot tallow and suck marrow straight from butchered bones. Coffee is no longer just a drink. It becomes a constant support system, sitting on the stove around the clock. You drink it black, boiling, and bitter, partly for the caffeine that keeps your mind sharp, and partly for the heat that seems to warm you from the inside. Out on the range, you carry coffee beans and a small tin pot, stopping to build a fire and brew a fresh cup whenever the numbness starts creeping into your thoughts. The cold never pauses the work, and one of your most important tasks is keeping water available for the cattle. Every day, you hack through ice with an axe or pick, breaking open creeks and ponds that may be buried beneath 2 feet of solid frozen crust. It is brutal labor. You sweat inside your heavy layers, which creates a dangerous problem. Moisture that can turn against you the moment you stop moving. And that is only part of the job. You also ride the drift fences, trying to stop cattle from crowding together and dying in storms. In blizzards, cattle instinctively move away from the wind. They drift and drift until they hit a fence, then keep bunching tighter until they freeze in a piled mass. Your job is to cut those fences when necessary, or push the herd toward a sheltered canyon where they have some chance of surviving until the storm passes. The risk of getting lost is constant, because a whiteout can erase the world in minutes. You can be only a few steps from shelter and still die, circling blindly until the cold drops you within shouting distance of safety. The smart men run a rope from the shack to the barn so they can follow it back by hand when visibility vanishes completely. Frostbite stalks you all the time, quiet, numb, and deceptive, taking ears, noses, fingers, and toes before you even notice it happening. You keep your face moving constantly, twitching your nose, flexing your jaw, working your ears, anything to keep blood flowing. You study your partner's face as much as your own, watching for the pale white patches that mean skin is freezing. And if frostbite sets in, you do not rub it with snow. That old idea only shreds damaged tissue. Instead, you warm it slowly against the heat of your stomach or armpit. Nights on the open range, when you cannot reach the shack, become a harsh test of endurance and discipline. You scrape snow away down to bare earth, spread a waterproof tarp, and roll into a heavy quilted bedroll. Sometimes you heat rocks in the fire, wrap them in cloth, and place them near your feet so they act like makeshift heaters until the middle of the night. When the temperature becomes truly murderous, you may even sleep pressed against your horse, or force a cow to lie down so you can steal warmth from its body. It is filthy, risky, and desperate. But the heat from an animal that weighs half a ton can be the difference between waking up and never opening your eyes again. Even then, you sleep lightly, listening for wolves driven bold by hunger. The winter of 1886, remembered as the Great Die-Up, proved to every cowboy that the plains answer to no man. Millions of cattle were lost, their frozen bodies piling against fences, and countless cowboys died trying to save them. It was a brutal reminder that leather, wool, grit, and experience all have limits when the weather decides to show its full power. But the cold is not the only thing that can break a man. Cabin fever is its own kind of enemy. Being trapped for weeks or months inside a shack no bigger than a closet, sharing it with one other person, can wear the mind down just as surely as frost wears down the flesh. Tiny annoyances grow into arguments. Silence turns heavy. Sometimes it erupts into violence. To keep yourself steady, you carve wood, play solitaire with a greasy deck, or read and reread the labels on old tin cans just to keep your thoughts from turning against you. Then there is snow blindness, another danger the plains throw at you. Sunlight reflecting off endless white snow can scorch your eyes. They begin to feel as though they are packed with hot sand, and the pain can leave you blind for days. So you improvise protection, cutting thin slits into leather or wood and tying it over your face to block most of the glare. The winter plains are not merely cold. They are silent in a way that feels unnatural, broken only by the crunch of hooves and the howl of wind. It can feel as if you are the last human being alive, crossing some frozen world that was never meant to be inhabited. But that isolation hardens you. It strips away every unnecessary concern and reduces life to the essentials: the next breath, the next step, the next heartbeat. Then at last, the Chinook comes, and in just a few hours, the temperature can rise by 40 degrees. The change feels almost holy. Snow softens, rivers begin to move again, and for the first time in months, you can shrug off that immense buffalo coat. You made it through, but you are leaner, tougher, and older than the person who rode into winter. So the next time you see a cowboy in a film, do not focus only on the gunfights, revolvers, and outlaw drama. Think instead of the men in sod-roofed shacks, wrapped in buffalo hide, living on black coffee and sheer endurance. Their greatest enemy was never the bandit. It was the -30 wind that never stopped searching for the smallest weakness in their armor.